Let's do a comparison of the kind of data output that we get from Claude versus ChatGPT. So the version that we're using for Claude is Sonnet 3.5, which is the most advanced large language model that's available right now. And it does beat ChatGPT on a number of fronts. ChatGPT 4.0, I think it is, on a number of fronts, but still finding that the it's not as useful as ChatGPT. So we're going to compare it against Real Estate Agent, and we're at version 0.124. So we've done a little update since yesterday, and we're going to compare it against that. So it's not a direct one-for-one comparison because we haven't really trained Claude yet, because Claude doesn't have the ability to be trained in the way that we want it to be trained. So, but anyway, let's have a look and see what we get in by just looking at real estate prices. So, Claude, provide a chart with home price trends for Florida, and ChatGPT, do the same. Let's see what we get. Okay, so Claude looks like it's going to just give us some information on how we could do the analysis, which is useful. Not going to say it's not, but then we're going to have to go and find our own data. Whereas we can see here that ChatGPT has just given us a chart straight away based on the data that we have fed it, and it's looking good. Okay, so let's see. This is probably a bit of an unfair comparison, but let's see. Produce a horizontal bar chart with house price changes for the top 20 cities in the USA. And let's do the same for ChatGPT. Okay, this is pretty good from Claude. It's doing a pretty good job, actually. Not gonna say it's not. So when we get some updates from Anthropic to be able to do some programming of our own AI assistant, then we may have a pretty good comparison against the outputs of the two. So let's just expand this. So house price changes for top 20 cities in the USA. So this is some data that we've added to ChatGPT today. So we've added quite a lot of data to it today. And so this is saying that the top 20 cities in the USA price changes over the last or the most recent quarter. The data set isn't quite up to date, but what this is showing is towns, cities, significant sized towns and cities in the USA that have seen the most appreciation just in one quarter. 16%, that's big. Now, Claude doesn't have the ability to do this, so let's ask ChatGPT some further questions. Let's say, let me ask it to do this, which is, I spelled Florida wrong. It should correct that. It should know what I'm talking about. So let's look at the cities, big cities and towns in Florida, and see which ones have got the highest or the biggest price changes. So this will be really interesting. Taking its time, here we go. So what an interesting chart. We've got some negative numbers over the recent quarter. So Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Sarasota. Wow, so down by the Tampa area. And the villages. I love the love the villages. I think it's the biggest golfing. Let's ask ChatGPT. How many golf carts are there in the villages? Something like 190,000? 85,000. Amazing. So how many golf carts per head of population is that? It's something like 0.5 or 60%. Wow. 0.85. That's nearly one for one. That's like nearly everybody's got their own golf cart. Love the villages. One of my favorite places to visit. Anyway, so going back to the data. So this is interesting, right? So we've got changes up here, Panama City. Not see Jacksonville, Carla, Orlando seeing some modest gains. Was expecting actually some Miami places. Let's do something else. Let's ask it for. Let's ask it for a chart. Spell Florida. Florida. House price change in Florida over the last year, not the last quarter. Let's see if that changes anything. I think that might actually give us some different results. And there we go. So we've got some big swings. Let's say put this chart into an order with the highest first. Make it a bit easier to see. So Miami does look like it's got the biggest price gains over last year, and that is pushing 12. Looks like it's pushing 12% in the last year. Phenomenal. That is phenomenal. Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, love West Palm Beach. So, and here we can see down by Cape Coral, Naples. Okay, a little bit there. But yeah, so Miami, seeing some of the Miami area down that down that coast there, seeing some big price appreciations. Let's ask it to produce a similar chart for Texas. Let's see what it gives us. It's thinking about it. So yeah, so we've been busy today adding lots of useful data. If you're doing real estate transactions, you're going to want to know things like immigration trends, which we've got on a video from a couple of days ago. And the immigration trends impact how many people are moving in and out. And that has an impact on prices in the state. But then you really want to know if your town or city is impacted, and that's why we've gone to the effort of putting this particular data in. So it looks like we could see some negative price appreciation down here, modest gains here, but then El Paso. And so I'm not going to speculate as to whether these places have seen the most immigration. Not really going to go into that level of detail. What we're interested in is that these places have seen this amount of appreciation over the last year. Could it go into negative territory here? Is this a trend that's going to drift up? No idea, but we do have the data. So produce this chart for the last quarter. So what's useful about this chart now is that we don't have to wait for data to be, coming out that's going to go back over the last year, or this is quarter by quarter changes in prices now, which is quite useful because house transactions they don't usually happen overnight. So to be able to track it on a quarter by quarter basis is really useful. And this is what we've got here, right? Most recent quarter. And these are the places here that have seen some decent price changes over that quarter. And then you could take a view as to whether or not, these are where we're seeing quite a lot of softening. And is it an opportunity? Don't know. We are going to be putting together some data that might help us answer that. So a bit more macro stuff. So we've been building. I think we can probably agree that Claude doesn't yet have anything that we can use to be able to create this level of granularity and interaction. It may do. So, but in a minute, we're going to continue to focus our attention on ChatGPT, and then we'll see how Claude evolves, and also how Gemini and all the others. I think what is clear to me is that this is only going to get better and better, because this is effectively just an interactive model that you can ask it anything that you think is relevant to you and your house buying, selling, investing needs. There's going to be questions that you find relevant that somebody else may not. And that's what makes a market. Cool. So we are still building. every single day. We're adding capability, making some changes, looking forward to version 1 being complete and ready to go. I think people are going to be surprised at how good version 1 is going to be, and how easy it's going to be to interact with the real estate agent on ChatGPT. So exciting times ahead.